Hello there, everybody. Happy Halloween. This is the Halloween edition of the MMLP Movie Mondays with Luke Pickett podcast. Can I get a ooga booga? I was going to say amen, but that's not very Halloweeny. So can I get an ooga booga? You there at the back, can I get an ooga booga? Thank you. Yeah. That's the film I'm going to do today. And it's going to be not everyone's listening to this via YouTube. Some of you might be Spotifying, Amazoning, or whatever, or many of the other places we're on. Anywhere you can get your pods, that's where you can find this pod. That's what I'm trying to say to you people. I'm going to do an MMLP first today. Because normally what I do is I prefer to have either seen the movie or TV show episode at least once. And then on the rewatch, or one of the several rewatches, I will do an episode dissecting, analysing, fanboying over, whatever you want to call it. It's how we get down. But this time, I've never seen this film. Never seen it. Not once. Not never. Never even seen a trailer. However, I have heard people talk about it. It's been touted as, a good film. And I wanted to do something Halloween themed, horror themed. I was going to do a little movie that some of you may have seen called Dog Soldiers. Came out in like the early 2000s, maybe 2002. It's a British movie. It's technically a B movie, low budget or whatever, but it's how you do a B movie correctly, making use of the restrictions and maximizing your film, scope, potential, whatever. I think I need another coffee, because my brain's not firing on all cylinders right now, but I need to do this podcast ASAP as possible. So, again, I'll try not to slurp into the microphone, but you know me, it might happen from time to time. Anyway, so we're going to do this film, X. So all the reactions you'll see from me will be fresh and genuine and new. Not that anything else in this podcast is contrived, but, there we go. So, without further ado, and again, I'm putting these headphones on so that I can hear the film, but you guys can't hear the film, and then there's less chance of this podcast getting taken down from wherever it is distributed. So let's get this show on the road. This is a trailer. Thanks, Amazon Prime Video, for providing me with X. Nudity, violence, frightening scenes, substance use, alcohol use, and I was too slow to read the rest. So in the audio right now, as we go through these title sequences, I can hear like crickets and bugs and insects, so that's creating a nice atmosphere. So just they're holding on this still shot with the barn, the same audio that I was just talking about, the crickets and stuff in the background. They held on that shot for ages. Eventually we heard the sound of this car approaching in the distance. We heard it before we could see it. It's just pulled up, and then just as it stopped there, the camera started to zoom in slowly. So you're getting a sense of intrigue. Whenever a shot is held ages and you're not immediately spoon-fed a bunch of information or characters or whatever, I always get I want to know what's happening. I want to know who's doing what. Why are we at this barn? And the fact that there's no music, there's just all these creepy sort of, cricket noises and stuff, creates a sort of small sense that maybe not all is well. So let's see what happens. Oh, a few police cars knocking about. That can't be good. I'm getting Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes. Whoopsie. Okay, that was a really great shot. I forgot that Amazon would bring this shit up at the bottom that's dirtying the shot, but at least it will make my job of remembering actors' names easier. First shot, we went from that still shot that was holding, the opening shot, and then it flipped around and saw this. I can only assume it's a sheriff. He's at least a policeman, inspecting a dead body that was under a bloody white sheet. And then as he walks up to the house, the camera stayed nice and low, just tracking his feet. And there was a big, you see all this blood? It went all the way to the dead body, which is a good 5-10 meters the way he's just come from. And then as he gets here, he stopped. And then this axe is in frame, as well as all this broken glass and blood drippings. Not it. If it wasn't apparent that someone killed someone, it is now. It's just great use of scenery, effects, makeup of the blood and stuff. The nice, because the camera could have just followed him in, maybe with a mid shot or something, because we've already seen his face. They're not hiding him from the audience. But instead of making him the focal point, we're making the crime scene the focal point. Let's carry on. That's a great shot. Does it need to do anything other than just look badass? Because it looks badass. Those who aren't watching on the video, it's basically just looking down a set of stairs towards the front door. There is not a single light on in the house, so you only have the daylight coming in through the front door where the sheriff has just stepped into. So he's a silhouette with his badass cowboy hat, and there's a bloody body covered by a bloody sheet right next to him. It's a really cool shot. Don't really know what it sets up other than it just looks like a good shot. So this little TV now is the only audio playing other than the occasional footstep or the crickets and stuff outside, and it's some pastor or preacher going on about God and the devil, and I have seen the powers of the devil and Satan. So straight away we're getting is that maybe hinting towards some sort of satanic demonic thing that has caused these murders in this house, or is it just chilling and unnerving? We'll find out. See, this geezer's just come over and said, Sheriff, you're going to want to come take a look at this. And he's taken him to what we can only assume is a cellar. So what the camera shot, for those who aren't watching, is looking up the cellar staircase. Everything in the cellar at the moment is pitch black. The only light is, sort of above ground where the sheriff and his colleague are stood. And in the audio straight away was a kind of a wind, not like a howling wind, but like a... So that's the first thing we've heard that isn't the cricket noises. It's the first sort of atmospheric sound. So now they're transitioning down into the basement. We're getting this eerie, just to add a kind of flavor to it. So already I'm liking how this film is putting itself together. Who directed this film? Let me use the internet to discover. It was directed by Ti West. It was also written by Ti West. What else has Ti West done, you ask? Well, House of the Devil. Oh, that VHS movie. I didn't see that in the end. Don't know if I've seen much of your work, Mr. West, but there we are. As you were. Nothing but the creepy footsteps. Okay, now there's some chilling, chanty music happening over the audio. And the camera's just going to pan away and not show us what it was he said. What he was he saw, sorry. All he said was, my God. Oh, some drugs. Cocaine, heroin. Cocaine. This is an interesting... Okay, so it's set 24 hours earlier. There was a cool... Wow, he's giving her a lot of sugar. He just asked for some sugar and he's getting the whole bakery. Let me just pause this because I can't watch that and comment at the same time. So that eerie, chanty music started happening as the sheriff saw whatever it was in the basement. And that carried over into a really, I guess it's a montage of that lady. I'm going to assume that's Mia Goth. What a great name. Is that the character name or the actor name? That's the actor name. Mia Goth. What a cool name. Gothic, dude. And I'm wearing a Avenged Sevenfold t-shirt today because it's got skulls on it, and I thought that was Halloween appropriate. Plus, Avenged Sevenfold are awesome, and if you disagree, you're wrong. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way. I like it. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, so she did a little cocaine montage where we had that eerie music and then slowly that chanting shit, and then slowly in the background the music that's currently playing in the scene started to fade in, and it was just sort of cutting from, tipping the cocaine out, then it would cut to black, fade back in, spreading the cocaine out with a credit card, cut to black, fade back in, chopping it up with a credit card, and then it sort of, instead of cutting to black, it would just fade in and out of the shots. So instead of doing one continuous shot or clean cuts in between, it was just doing fade in and outs. That was pretty cool. Then she snorted it, and then we're into like a normal... Kid Cudi's in this movie? Huh. I've just seen his... thanks, Amazon. I was complaining about that dirtying the shots earlier, but see it in the bottom corner. Kid Cudi's in this. Day and night. That's the only Kid Cudi song I know. This guy's got the most typical southern accent. And he literally just said, giddy up. And he went, hoo, on his way out. Could he be more of a cowboy? I don't think so. So this guy's the poor man's Matthew McConaughey. I'm kidding. He's probably a great actor. Just plowing. Wow. That's almost as bad. Sorry, I feel like I'm shouting, but the music's really loud in these headphones. That plowing service is almost as on the nose as the pussy wagon in Kill Bill. Yeah, I made another Tarantino reference. Yeah, what are you going to do about it? You're going to stop listening to the podcast? Please don't. 1979, Star Spangled Banner's letters. I think I'm running the risk of this podcast being taken down off of YouTube already because I keep, instead of pausing it and talking about it, I'm just talking over it while it's playing, and they may frown upon that, but fuck them. There we go, that'll do. So this film's set in 1979, right? And I've spoken about like color grading and film grain and stuff on a couple of other previous podcasts, but so this film came out this year, 2022, right? If you don't have a calendar nearby, it's the year 2022, in case you didn't know that. So they've actually made like a big effort to kind of reduce the quality of the filming, if that makes sense. I don't mean that to sound insulting to the filmmakers. Like it's good that they've done it because this is set in 1979. So they're making it look as though the footage comes straight from 1979. See how there's sort of like grainy quality? Like it's partially grainy because they're kind of in movement and I've paused it, and that's, a fault of technology. But you see how it's a little bit grainy in hue even here where it's a still image where there's no movement from these two. The colors aren't like, these sort of like rich high definition 4K colors. It's all kind of a little bit faded. So then when you combine that with, their costumes, their hairstyles, probably the language they use, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear a groovy or two. Well, it's a bit more 60s, but, Kid Cudi has an afro and he smokes weed, so... in this film anyway, he has an afro and he smokes weed. Yeah, so just a little note there for yourselves. If you're doing anything period-based, it's nice to pretend the footage is from that period. Unless you're doing a period before filming was invented, and then go ham, do whatever you want. Who cares? It's your film. A little bit of foreshadowing there. The film's called X. He just said to her, she's got that X factor, because they're talking about the want to be famous and stuff. What this film is doing really well is giving you a really big insight to the characters, painting everybody a little bit differently, without kind of overdoing it, just in the things they say. Like then I'm assuming it's Brittany Snow, the Marilyn Monroe type. She's already said something about using the gifts that God gave her, meaning her body. It would be a waste if she didn't use it to achieve whatever. She just had a conversation with her about the Kid Cudi character, Jackson, I'm assuming, based on this banner. There we go, first burp of the pod. 22 minutes in, not bad. What was my point? About them sometimes being partners and sometimes not, which says, a bit about her character. She's quite shy, hasn't really said a lot. Her first dialogue was a minute ago when she was talking to the Marilyn Monroe type, so that says a lot about her character. They're just drip feeding you little bits about them, which is nice. They're not spoon feeding you anything. And straight away, this guy just then, she was asking, why aren't we filming in chronological order? And he said, well, once it's all in the can, I can chop it up any way I want. And then he said he was thinking about experimenting quite a lot with the editing to do the avant-garde sort of stuff that they're doing in France. I paraphrased the shit out of that, but that's more or less what he said. So that tells us a lot about his character. He's the film geek, the nerd. I would probably play that character. He's going to have a gruesome death or something now, isn't he? Now I've hitched my wagon to that. Yeah, so that just to sort of back up that point that I was saying a minute ago about, all the characters are being drip fed a bit about who they are, what they do, how they get down. This priester commenting, this pastor or priest combines makes priester. Yeah, it just cut a minute ago to the TV that's on in the store, and it was the same priest that was in the opening shot in the murder house. Except this time he's talking about, people's lust and sex drives and stuff being sinful. So just sort of doing a bit of a running commentary on, no doubt, this group of people. It just did something quite weird with the editing. Got 13 minutes in, there's an hour and a half left, and I'm just still talking shit. With the editing just then, it zoomed in on the TV with the priest is talking, about God being vengeful, and then it cut to where they've just pulled up to, which was a big field with cows, and police had pulled over some oil truck or whatever, and then it cut back to the priest, and then it cut back to the field, and then it cut back to the priest, and then it cut back to the field, like real quick. It's almost like it's not letting you quite move on from the previous scene, or maybe it just wants to really hammer home the last thing the priest said, so that lingers with you. So maybe the cutting back and forth is its way of like lingering. I don't know. It's interesting. That shot, that's what it cut to. There's all these cows underneath these names here. So this is quite ominous. As the car's driving into what they're saying is the place they're going to do all their filming for the movie that they're making, which I'm pretty sure is a porno. We have this camera just sort of tracking them, like panning as the car moves through all these weeds. So that suggests that they're being watched by someone or something. There's a mixture in the audio between the music that they're listening to in the van, so the diegetic sound, and then a kind of more ominous score happening in the background, and then, a few bits of nature like crickets and whatnot again. But yeah, it's definitely creating a sense of something creepy occurring. Yep, there's definitely like more spooky chants happening now, and I'm pretty sure that's the house from the beginning. If it's not, it's equally as creepy because of the score. I really like the cinematography choices in this movie. So just then in the van, we had a shot from inside, and the back doors open. People jumped out, they grabbed their bags and stuff, and then staying in the van, the camera just panned around the side door, people grabbing bags and stuff from it. And then as those side doors were shut, it cut to a shot where it was half the screen was the front of the van just there, and then the other half was her opening the door and getting some stuff from it. And then as she reached in, got her stuff, and then moved, sort of out of the van herself, the camera tracked across to the left and just sort of looked at her through the door, the window of the van door, because it was open, so it was sort of perpendicular with the front of the van. Just all these like nice camera movements instead of doing just straight cuts, just camera following the motion of the actors or whatever. And then she sort of had a staring contest with this figure in the window, and at first it was quite hard to see what it was, and then eventually it like zoomed into the window, but we still haven't clearly seen the face of the person looking down at her. And all the while it was accompanied by that creepy score, which sounds like someone sort of softly humming or softly singing a kind of, not quite a nursery rhyme, but it's a bit like something like that. It's cool, it's creepy, it's eerie. I'm definitely getting like 70s sort of slasher vibes, it's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's what Rob Zombie's quite good at as a writer-director, is recreating that kind of, 70s kind of suspenseful horror. Yeah, it's interesting. This is quite a cool shot too. Just above where it says Martin Henderson, is the group of people that it looks like they're making their way left across screen, but then we just have grass along the bottom, this tree line, and then the sky, and we've still got the creepy score and the crickets and stuff. So I suppose a shot that wide is sort of showing that they are a little bit in the middle of nowhere. So if there is going to be any sort of danger or peril, it's going to be hard to try and find help or salvation anywhere else because they are completely in the middle of nowhere. We still haven't really seen the face of the old man properly. Every shot he's been either heavily shadowed or shot from behind or shot from far away that he's out of focus. So we still don't really know what he looks like. But he's definitely creepy. Oh, that is creepy, right? So she just sat down by like some sort of fishing lake or something, and as she walked out onto this little dock or jetty, whatever you call it, the camera watched her walk out and then zoomed right out, so it was just her stood, on the sort of side of a lake, showing that she's really on her own. And then she just sat down out of frame, and then that in the background is the white head of someone who's following her. It's very creepy because we didn't know it was there until she sat down out of frame and saw it move through the trees. And we still have that creepy chanting music playing. Very nice and suspenseful. See it moving? Right. So here it's doing that thing where it goes from this shot to a different shot. Like, look. But it was cutting back and forth. It keeps doing it. It's cool. I knew there'd be a gator. I just knew it. This is a great shot. I'm still annoyed that this thing keeps coming in. Can I get rid of that? Oh, I can! I learned something today. So it's just got her sort of swimming in the lake, and that's safety. So it's important that this is in shot, right? Because a minute ago, the camera panned from her. It wasn't a bird's eye view like it is now. It was just a shot of her sort of laying on her back, floating. And the camera panned around into all these weeds, and we saw like an alligator or a crocodile or something just sort of watching her. And then cut back to this. She was still starfishing, staring at the sky, and now she's making her way back to safety. So it's important that the safety of the dock is in shot, because we know now that off that way is an alligator. So all I'm expecting now... See, this is what's great about films when they let your imagination start running wild, because all I'm expecting now is from right of screen is to see an alligator following her to, eat her or whatever, as she's swimming back that way. I have a funny feeling she'll be okay because plot armor, but still, suspenseful. Gets your heart going. And there it is. I was right. The alligator's following her. That's a fucking enormous alligator as well. Oh, shit. I'm just going to pause it here so we can properly talk about it. But look at the size of that fucking thing. And then, the quality of the video's gone a little bit. But, it's enormous. Run, bitch, run. So now a minute ago we saw just behind her forearm, we could see the alligator. So now the director's deliberately screwing with us because she's blocking it, so we don't know how close it's getting, and the music is building up in the background, kind of like Jaws. It's dun 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 dun. Just wanted to get herself out of the water. Oh my god, it's so close. It keeps going back to this style of shot. So this is really similar to the opening one where we had the sheriff, except it was from up the stairs looking down at the doorway, and now she stood in the doorway and we're looking through the corridor, not down the stairs. And again, the rest of the house is dark. The only light is coming from outside, and Muggins with a cowboy hat, the Matthew McConaughey wannabe, he had a similar shot earlier on when they first arrived at this farm. They keep going back to it, and it's cool because it's making the whole inside of the house a complete mystery to the audience. We don't know really what's in there, who's in there, what's going on in there. It's just all complete mystery because none of it is lit, and we haven't seen it from any angle other than this. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I'll give it a 4 or 5 out of 10. That alligator scene actually has just reminded me of what's that film, Cruel? If you haven't seen Cruel, that's awesome. It's basically a hurricane in Florida or somewhere, floods this little town, massive infestation of alligators and stuff, or crocodiles, whatever, just start killing everybody, but it's really bloody good. This Mia Goth playing Maxine, let's see if I can land it on a shot of her face. Oh, that was spooky. Okay, so Maxine was just walking around the house looking for the old lady because the old lady gestured for her to sort of follow her inside earlier. And she's just appeared behind her. That was spooky. But what I was going to say about Mia Goth is she has like this constellation of freckles around her eye, and I don't know if it's her or if the makeup department has done it to her or whatever. But it's a really cool, unique feature. It's very pretty. This is interesting. Okay, so you see this shot here where we've got the old woman still pretty much hidden from view. You know, we still haven't had a good look at her face or anything. Same as the old man. It's all been shot from behind, or she's been in shadow, or it's been too far away that she's out of focus and we can't make out her features. And then Maxine is sat opposite her drinking, I don't know, lemonade or whatever. And it literally just cut from the sort of, I'm going to call it the stock footage, but it's the footage that they're making their porno film with. So, you know, it's even more grainy and stuff, you know. It's very distinctly in the movie film footage or whatever. I don't know how to explain it better than that. And in that, like, porno scene, you had the Kid Cudi character and the Marilyn Monroe wannabe sat opposite each other drinking lemonade. It's just basically cut to an identical shot of this scene. It's very cool. Also, I don't know if it would have been inspired by Rob Zombie or if Rob Zombie was very heavily influenced by the films of the 70s, and this is also heavily influenced by the films of the 70s. But I used to be a big Rob Zombie fan. I just feel that the films of his that I'd seen and that I liked haven't lived up as well as they could, or as well as they could have, or maybe I've just like grown up a bit and changed and stuff. But I feel like this is perfecting the sort of formula that he was going for, if that makes sense. Not to insult the man. He's, you know, pretty successful. So he's obviously doing something right. See, similar shot, them sat at the table drinking lemonade or whatever. And see what I mean about this sort of like stock footage that they're using to show whenever they're filming the porno. The lighting's completely different. It all of a sudden gets orange and a bit warmer looking, but then the quality of the film grain itself reduces and the framing reduces, so it's no longer a widescreen thing. We now have this is this 15:4? I can't remember the measurements of the frames, whatever it is. If you were born in the 90s, you would know anything other than widescreen. See there, that like constellation of freckles on the side of her face? I don't know if that's her face or if that's the makeup department doing it to her, but it's cool. There's a really great score happening now. It's literally just like a drum beat sort of echoing in the distance, like boom, boom, boom. And it's sort of been building ever since the old man's just turned back up in his truck, and the old lady was being very creepy towards Maxine here. And she said, she was like, "You should go now. It'll be our little secret." And basically told her to get out of the back door kind of thing. And Maxine was like, "What will be our little secret?" So she's stealthily trying to evade the old man, because I have a feeling he wouldn't be too happy if she was in his house. But it's atmospheric, intense. That's a great shot. Her running away from, I'm going to call it the terror, because it's that spooky house. You know, she's like sprinting away from it. It kind of reminds me of that scene in Inglourious Bastards. Again, a Tarantino reference, where Saoirse at the beginning is running away from Hans Landa after he's like shot everybody. Spoiler alert, but it happens in the opening scene, so get over it. Look at her go. It was an interesting bit of dialogue just then. It was in their porno scene, but I feel like they keep using elements of the porno scene, or like the priest footage that we saw earlier, to like foreshadow things. So just then she was like talking about, you know, their porno things called The Farmer's Daughters or whatever, and the Kid Cudi characters just ploughing both of them. Excuse the farming pun with ploughing there. But the Maxine character was like, oh, we shouldn't disturb my daddy, you won't like him when he's angry, and the music and the tone sort of changed from that, because the score while they were filming the porn was that kind of like typical bow chicka bow chicka bow chicka sort of thing that you hear when there's porn, especially in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, that sort of music faded out and was replaced by something a bit more somber or ominous sounding, especially when she said, you won't like my daddy when he's angry. And I feel like that was foreshadowing the old man's reaction, because earlier the old man went into the kitchen and saw that there was the jug of lemonade out with 2 glasses. The old woman was in the house by herself, so obviously one of these Utes has gone into his house and spoken to his wife. So it's sort of foreshadowing that. And then it cuts straight away to images of like creepy ass China dolls, not very well lit. And on every cut there was like a ominous note, like a dong, bong, or whatever. It was creepy. It was good. It's upping the suspense again, because we went from the suspense with the lemonade drinking and the old man finding it to a bit of levity and like a change in actual visual tone. Like I said, it was more orange in hue and a bit brighter whenever they filmed the porn, and now we're back to the eerie, dark, cold tones. Really great use of sound as well. It was a shot of the old woman combing her hair, and they've really upped the sound of the brush combing through her hair, and it sounds very dry and brittle and like knotted, and that is one of the prominent noises in this scene. You know, it's one of the prominent sort of audio tracks. And it's creating a very like unnerving thing. It's almost like you want her to stop brushing her hair because it's creepy. How do they make brushing hair creepy? Good filmmaking. That's how. Oh shit. Okay, so they're filming the porno scene in the barn, right? And the old woman's just appeared, and she's done her makeup like Maxine now. You see the blue. Oh shit, because when they were in the house with the lemonade, she was talking about how her beauty's faded and she's not as pretty as she used to be, and you know her husband used to do everything for her because it was I think she said something like it was the power of beauty or something like that. So she's obviously envious of this, you know, young, attractive woman that's just turned up, and she's like combed her hair like her. She's done her eyeshadow like her, and now she's like perving, and it looks like she's naked as well, which is weird. If you listen to my podcast on The Witch, you'd know that old naked people is a creepy thing. Yeah, interesting. The old woman just kind of wants to be wanted. That's quite sweet. She's basically just sort of, you know, said please to the husband in terms of like, let's have some level of physical intimacy. I don't know if that would mean sex because they're both quite old, but it looked like she just wanted to be held and have a dance and stuff, and he said no because his heart can't take it. So it's almost quite sweet despite all the creepy stuff that's been happening earlier in this film. Now we're doing that cut back thing. So this character, initially she was like not, so we're getting some growth from her. So initially she was really put off by the idea of like getting involved in filming a porno. She called it smut. She was disapproving of it. And she's been holding the boom, you know, the sound thing. And in the last shot they were filming in the barn when they were having sex, you could see like a smile creeping up on her face, and she couldn't take her eyes off the action. So it's like she's coming round to the idea of like enjoying it. And now she's like just sort of non-stop staring at Maxine and the cowboy director, Matthew McConaughey type guy. I think she's maybe wanting to get involved. I don't know. I'm just guessing based on what they've given, like what sort of growth they've given to her character. But she's definitely becoming more accepting of it. Okay, she hasn't asked about getting involved or anything at the moment, but she's having an ethical debate with them. She's asking how, because they're basically the people in the porn and the director are coupled up. So we got Max with the cowboy guy, Kid Cudi with the Marilyn Monroe one. They're coupled up, but the Kid Cudi guy, like I said, he's doing scenes with both of them. I think that's what they call it in porn. They call it doing a scene. So weird. Yeah, so she's asking, like, ethically, how can, if you're with this person, how can you be okay with them doing a scene with someone else and stuff? So yeah, it's interesting that they're throwing a bit of ethics in there instead of just, brushing all that stuff under the carpet. It's giving the characters depth. It's giving the film more than just like, here's some tits and some blood. You know what I mean? So we're getting a little guitar sing-along moment now. They're playing Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. And I just wanted to pause on it because as soon as he started playing, I'm pretty sure he's not playing it live and they're recording it. They're like dubbing the track over or whatever. But the tone on the guitar is really nice. I play guitar myself, so it's like, maybe I play guitar. No, it's just, I can appreciate a good guitar tone. It's a really nice sounding guitar tone. And then the Marilyn Monroe one is singing onto it. It's just a nice little, it's probably a calm before the storm type moment. Called it. She's just asked if she can do a scene in the movie. Called it. Knew it was coming. That's, alright, so they're having, debate right now about what's the actress's name? I think was Jenna Ortega. I can't remember the character name, but the young sound operator has just asked if she could be in the movie. The director, scriptwriter guy, her partner is not happy about it, so they're outside having a conversation about it. But that's by the by. I just like how this is lit. So they got the cold, sort of outside blue, sort of blue and white tones that you get from like moonlight and things. Lighting most of the scene, and then where he sort of stood in front of the window of the room where everyone else is sat, having beers and stuff, you get this nice orange hue. So it's just a nicely lit scene. Just wanted to comment on that the the cinematographers and the gaffers and everybody involved in lighting rigs and stuff is just doing their job well, because the picture looks very nice. Okay, so they're building up to the involvement of the sound boom girl, Lorraine, that's the character name, getting involved in the scene, and there was just the whole time she's had a crucifix necklace on, and there was just a symbolic removing of that, which is just a interesting character thing that they're picking up on and adding in, So now everybody's asleep, and we're getting these creepy shots where the camera's either like tracking up to someone's bed, or just holding on them while they sleep. Eerie music in the background. He's crying in the shower because his girlfriend just got involved in a porno. But all those shots of the people sleeping and the camera sort of tracking towards them or something, it just suggests that someone's watching them or something like that. That's a great shot. So this is, again, the director guy crying in the shower because his partner got involved in a porn and he didn't want them to. But, she can do what she wants. It's her life. But I like that there's just darkness either side. We've got the moonlight coming in through the window, the white of the bath, and then the white of the shower curtain sort of reflecting the moonlight. That's the only other source of light. But because I don't know, when it's bird's eye view like that, it kind of makes him quite vulnerable looking. And then, films like Psycho with the shower killing scene and stuff, just you kind of have that like unconscious thing in pretty much all cinema now because of the impact of films like Psycho, that like the shower is a very vulnerable place to be. You're naked in there, it's slippery. And then with all this eerie music and suspense and things building up, he might be in trouble. There's been lots of shots of people lurking either, in window frames or, outside of buildings, windows looking in. And the fact that his face is sort of blocking it's similar to the alligator shot I mentioned earlier. His face is blocking the window, so my imagination is going like, there's going to be someone behind the window, watching him or going to kill him or whatever. So I like films like this where because of the sort of drip feeding of other things in, it then gets your imagination running because you're getting used to the sort of formula of the film, So because of the formula of the film, there's normally someone watching someone through a window. Now I'm like, shit, he's going to be being watched through a window. And just quickly, actually, on this shot again, because we're back to it. I don't know how they set it up, but I know just from experience of like making short films and stuff that what it likely is there would be some sort of rig or whatever holding the camera up there. Looking down, and there's probably some sort of LED like white light outside the window looking in, And there may even be another one sort of lit dimly behind the shower curtain to get that nice white sort of hue in the middle of it there. And that could be pretty much it. Like, I guarantee you there's a white light outside the window at the very least. They're not relying just on the moonlight itself. But that's kind of like what you would need really for that shot. I imagine. I don't know. I might be completely wrong. But that's how I would have done it. That was freaking terrifying. Let's rewind, shall we? So he gets in the van to bail and starts driving off, and then the camera's going to cut to like his view, you know, like sort of through the windscreen of the dashboard. So his view, we see this is, you know, that's the thing hanging down from the wing mirror, like, I don't know, whatever. He was seeing him drive around from the house. Bang, creepy old woman right in front of the van, and the audio went doo, like as it, you know, as it cut to that. Very creepy, gave me goosebumps. Okay, she started to hug him and start caressing him, and it's very creepy. Is this her want for physical intimacy that she isn't getting from her husband? But we also haven't seen what's in her left hand. I'm worried she has a knife or something. It ain't a condom, I'll tell you that. Oh, she's trying to kiss him. He's not having any of it. Yep, it was a knife. She just stabbed him up through the chin with a knife because he refused her advances. She wants physical intimacy that much. She can't let go of her youth and her past and how pretty she used to be and probably how many like guys were swooning over her and stuff, and she can't accept that she's older now. So when she gets refused, she stabs the director, Mr. Poindexter, in the chin. At least we're getting to the murders now. We're an hour in. That is a brilliant shot. So he's just collapsed there on the floor in front of the van. The whole time Don't Fear the Reaper is playing. You know, da 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 da. The headlights. She looks all ominous. We've got the mixture again of the blues and the orange tones. The haunted house looking thing in the background. That's the framing of that is just exemplary. So she's pulled the knife out of his neck and then just continued to stab repeatedly back into his neck, and it's been spraying blood everywhere, and blood has been sprayed across the headlights of the van. So now instead of shining orange, they're shining red, so we're getting this real dark, you know, blood red kind of hue to everything. And it's been this isn't the only shot that they've done. There was one behind her. She sort of sat on top of him, stabbing him. So she was silhouetted, but with red, and it's very, although it's gory as fuck, it's really like, it's really good cinematography and lighting and use of color, despite the fact it's gory and disturbing. Shots like that, you see? That's what I meant. Which almost certainly to create that shot, they're not relying on only the headlamps of the car, the headlights, headlamps, whatever you want to call it. There's definitely other lighting rigs, you know, with red gels or something on them to light up the rest of the scene with that red hue. But, you know, the audience doesn't need to know that or see that. So you can tell that there'd be another lighting rig because she's lit from behind as well, when the only source of light on screen is the headlamps. So there's definitely a red lighting rig behind her. Oh, and now she's dancing. That was cool. So after she stood up, having slayed this guy, she started to sort of softly dance. And she spoke earlier about how she used to dance in her youth. And the music changed from Don't Fear the Reaper to something else that suited her dancing style. And now she's like, stopped dancing, gone back to normal, and Don't Fear the Reaper's faded back in. So she had like this odd moment of serenity. So this is a great shot because Jenna Ortega's character, what was her name? Lorraine? she's just woken up in bed, realised that her partner RJ, the director fella, isn't there. Then starts walking through the barn or house, guest house, whatever it is, looking for him. A lot of just still shots of her walking, not a lot of ambient noise, crickets, not a very, very soft score. So they're not overdoing the sound and the ambience, so it creates that sense of like, there's something sort of spooky and eerie when things are too quiet. So I think that's kind of what they're going for here. And then she's just stood in the doorway. The door was open, again, odd. And they've done a pan around of the rest of the farm yard. So like that, the main house building over there, and then the barn on the left, from her perspective. And now the camera's jumped behind her and is slowly moving in, like zooming in or tracking forward towards her, which just makes me think that there's someone behind her. Chances are it'll be one of her friends, and they'll be like, "What are you doing up out of bed?" Or it could be a killer. We will find out. But that moving in of her, moving in on her from behind, yeah, definitely creates the idea that there's someone approaching her, and she doesn't know they're there. I just had some major technical difficulties with my microphone. It was just, I don't know what was happening, but it was like everything just went way up, so it was breaching. You couldn't hear. Well, you could hear stuff. It was just like white noise on steroids. But basically, I was just talking about this sequence with Martin Henderson just then. So, spoiler alert, he got. But it was really, really good sequence. I can't remember what I said about it, but it was really good, really suspenseful. He was there in his little tidy whities. Other than that, he was completely nude. So that gave him a sort of vulnerable sense. He stood on a nail, which caused him to limp. There wasn't a lot of light around him. No friends around him to help him out. Some real interesting camera angles where you couldn't quite make out either what he was looking at or what, just things like that hidden from the audience view, which then makes the audience imagination run wild as to like creating their own sort of sense of peril or danger for him. It was a good sequence. It's a shame everything I said about it was like instead. See, no, she's hanging out with the farmer. They're gonna go look for the farmer's wife and her boyfriend, the director guy. And he's just asked her to go down to the cellar to get a flashlight. And this is the first suggestion of the cellar we've had since the opening sequence with the sheriff. Exactly the same shot, looking up from the cellar staircase towards her. So we already have this sense of dread and peril about the cellar because of that opening sequence. So straight away now when we get to this shot, we're like, oh God, she's screwed. There's no way, excuse the pun about being screwed because they're making a porn. But yeah, we're just straight away, we're like, oh, God damn it, don't go down there. We know there's something bad down there. We don't know what it is, but we know it's bad. That was a really good cut. As whatever her name is, Lorraine, went to click on a pulley light switch before she went down into the cellar. Instead of hearing the click noise, instead we got a big jump scare of the audio, of like a big, cacophonous noise, and the noise of stabbing as we cut straight back to Martin, whatever his name is, being stabbed in the eye and dying. Good use of audio and cutting. Another interesting framing shot, another interestingly framed shot as well, is what I should say. These symmetry of the two windows, the big bundles in the middle, his dead body down there, her all covered in blood, walking over to him with the pitchfork that she's just killed him with. Just interesting. It's so creepy because she's so. I guess it's like the unexpected one is the killer. This slow-moving, frail, relatively innocent-looking old lady as actually a real creepy, sociopathic serial killer. Something that this film is doing so well is the use of score to provide atmosphere, tension, and jump scares or whatever it might be. It's going from moments of an eerie quietness with no atmospheric sound, maybe just a few crickets, maybe a really subtle score, sometimes complete silence, nothing but footsteps or whatever diegetic noise the characters are making themselves, opening the fridge like you just did there. Or then sometimes it's using sound on a real big scape, a big explosive noise, not explosive as in a literal explosion, just a big sort of shocking noise, which could be like discord, or like some sort of string things, just, do you know what I mean? That kind of like off note, off key, harsh sounding stuff to sort of like scare you, like, it's so hard to verbalize those noises, but I hope you get what I mean. Either that or, it will have a real, like a more sort of prominent score to it, and then it's using obscure angles like this. So now all we're seeing is him and like the ceiling above him. So we don't know if there's someone in the room with him. It could be someone approaching, creeping up behind him. We don't know. Or there'll be other shots where it's such a wide shot that the person's just on their own in the middle, and it with the costume and things, where they're all sort of meant to be sleeping and things right now. Everyone's either in pajamas, pants, or naked, which they don't look very action ready. It creates a sense of vulnerability about them. So when they're in the middle of this big wide shot, it looks like they're alone because it's such a wide shot that there's nothing else around them. So it just creates that sense of, like I say, vulnerability and things like that. It's combining, and the lighting as well, hiding other things in shrouds of darkness or ominous red hues, these type of thing. It's really using its lighting and its cinematography and its soundscape to absolutely ramp up the tension and the horror. Like, this is a very creepy film. It's very good. I'm definitely going to watch it a second time. Unless the ending's shite. I don't know. I don't know why they've done this, because it's completely distracted me from the horror and the tension, and instead is making me laugh. But if your eyes haven't already been drawn to it, between his fucking legs. Oh, I just swallowed my own hair. They joked, or they referenced earlier in the film, because they're making a porno, that he's packing some heat. He's digging tunnels with that thing. He's got a third leg down there, and now just randomly, while he's asking the old geezer if he needs help finding his wife, we could just see this fucking silhouetted shadow of a massive hog he's got between his legs. And I don't know why they've done that, because it's replaced any sense of suspense and terror with making me laugh. Or maybe the old guy's going to go, I'm so jealous of the size of your pecker, and then shoot him with his shotgun or something. I don't know. Look at that thing. It's got a mind of its own. I have noticed that, well, actually Dexter didn't. I call him Dexter, the director guy. He wasn't wearing white, but the executive producer, the cowboy wannabe Woody Harrelson type, Matthew McConaughey even, he was wearing white underwear when he got killed. So white is normally associated with like purity and innocence, just in terms of costume and stuff. And then, the villains will normally wear black, that kind of thing. And Kid Cudi's just put on white shorts and a t-shirt to go help the old man look for his missus. Oh wait, but the old woman is wearing white as well. Okay, so maybe they're not leaning too hard into the costume department in terms of representing innocence and evil. That's a cool shot though. So we just had the camera sort of lurking. So Kid Cudi was down the end. You see that door down the end? He was down there. The camera was just hidden slightly around the corner watching him leave. And now that he's gone, the camera's moved and is doing a shaky cam. So if you've heard me speak about shaky cams before, normally there'll be a cinematographer or cameraman like holding the camera, and as they move, we get the shakiness. That's a way that filmmakers will tell the audience that what we're seeing is the perspective of a person, as opposed to like a held shot that isn't representative of someone's view. So now we have this creepily moving down the hallway, and we know that the Marilyn Monroe girlfriend type is asleep in that room. So we get this sense that the killer is making its way towards her. Oh, now they've thrown a curveball, and instead of going all the way down to the Marilyn Monroe bedroom, they've instead gone to the bedroom where Maxine is sleeping. Threw us a curveball there. Because we know now that, well, we've known for a while that there's an alligator. We've been reminded of the alligator because the old geezer said he's only carrying his shotgun with him while he looks for his wife because of the alligators. We know that they've established a minute ago that those two are around by the pond. So now I'm just dreading that Kid Cudi's going to get got by an alligator, because it's unlikely he's going to get got by the old woman because she's in the house where they're all sleeping and she's like caressing and spooning Maxine while she sleeps, and it's very creepy and it's very disturbing. But they're still building an atmosphere of suspense and tension and horror, so I can only assume, unless the old man's going to start killing people, which doesn't seem likely, because although he was sort of built up earlier on in the film to be the potentially violent one or evil one, it seems to be his wife now. So it's unlikely the old man's going to join in, because he probably would have started it already. So it's likely he's about to get got by a gator. Damn painful way to go, I imagine. Okay, so we've just gone back to poor old Lorraine being locked in the basement. Actually, when she went down there, I was just saying a minute ago about the use of camera to sort of suggest that there might be someone stood behind someone and things like that. When she first went down into the basement, they were using a lot of those kind of shots, especially, with the use of lighting, because it's a dark basement and she only has a flashlight, that kind of thing, to suggest that there might have been someone behind her or someone lurking in the shadows of the basement, things like that. And then it was all false. She turned around and I was like, there's going to be a shock, and there was nothing there. And then when she went back up the stairs of the basement, she then realized that she was locked in. And then, the terror starts. So that was cool, because it set you up with a false sense of hope that she was going to be okay, and she wasn't. Well, she's still alive. So now we've cut back to her in the basement, and she's trying to, get out through this hatch door thing. It's all locked. So then she's gone over to the workbench and started looking for weapons, picked up a couple of hammers, and then decided to pick up an axe. And I do believe it is the same axe we saw in the opening shot where the sheriff was there with all those dead bodies and the axe was covered in blood. So we're getting that sense of like impending doom approaching because of the use of that prop. Yeah, I was wrong. Old man shot Kid Cudi with a shotgun because he was jealous that he was enticing his wife. I thought he was going to get got by a gator. Get got by a gator. God, I'm feeling a tremendous sense of dread watching this film, which means they're doing their job right. Oh, she's going to get got by the gator. Someone's going to get gated. They wouldn't put a gator in this film if no one was going to get got. Dude, the sense of dread and horror and suspense that this film is creating. It's not an easy watch, but I'm enjoying it. I may not look like I am. But that's the thing with horror movies. Like, the thing with any movie, whatever the genre is, I want to go along for the ride. If I'm watching a horror movie, and I may have said this already, but if I'm watching a horror movie and I'm not afraid, then it's a bad horror movie. If I'm watching a comedy and I'm not laughing, it's a bad comedy, And this film is unnerving the bejesus out of me, so it's doing its job well. Dude. Yep, she got gators, and it was horrific to watch. So, yeah, I'm not sleeping tonight. That was good shot just then. Good use of shot and sound. So, what's her face? Maxine was looking for a friend. She looks out the window. She sees the old man and the old woman come in, shotgun in hand, covered in blood. Ominous. So she was in. So you can see there. That's the old man's head just coming into frame there. So Maxine was there. She's ran. The camera didn't cut away. Stayed as it was, and then we slowly heard the footsteps and the shuffling of the old people coming in, and now they're walking into frame. So it's great because we get that. Because of the footsteps and stuff and them gradually appearing in frame, we get that sense of like, uh-oh, the danger's approaching. And all it is a held shot. Brilliant. I might throw up. I actually might throw up. This film is so hard to watch. Ah, for fuck's sake. The old couple are going at it, and that was going to make me throw up. And now poor old Maxine's hiding under the bed. And she's got to listen to the old couple going at it. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. This film may have ruined sex for me. Oh, Jesus Christ. Paused at a bit of a bad moment, but you can faintly see in the doorway. So the shot for those listening only is just round the corner from. So the camera's half looking down the corridor and then half, in the sort of corner of a room where Maxine, the only survivor now, is back to the wall hiding from them. And then down the corridor we can see the old couple, and they're lit by that ominous red hue of the truck lights where the first guy to die died. So the fact that they are, again, lit red just reminds us that they're the evil ones. Just look at that shot. Look at that framing. Half the screen is the preacher. Half the screen is the carnage and the dead bodies. And he's just said something along the lines of, now that's what I call divine intervention. Fitting. I can't even speak about this film anymore. I'm so disturbed. Like, I'm enjoying the fuck out of it, don't get me wrong, but I really want it to end because I really want to go throw up now. Jesus fucking Christ. Just when you think it's done and everyone's going to go home. Spoiler alert. As Maxine was getting away and the old woman was laying on the floor outside, she backed the van over her head and it popped like a watermelon. And I normally, a lot of the time, I'm pretty desensitized to violence, but this film, it just the building of the atmosphere and everything, and then the execution of it. I'm gonna cry. Arguably, though, at this point, as she's driving away, she doesn't know that Kid Cudi's been shot, and she doesn't know that Blondie's been eaten by an alligator, and she's not trying to look for them to help them. Bad friend. That's a great shot. That might be the final shot of the movie, but that's a great shot. The sun faintly rising over the hilltop there. For those listening, lower half of the screen is just the ground, tree lines. Top half of the screen is skyline, dark clouds. Left-hand side of the screen, sun is rising over the top. I don't know if that's creating like a sense of hope, the dawning of a new day, whatever it is, but it just looks fucking cool. And I'm ready to go throw up and cry and just... I need a minute. Ti West is a twisted dude. Excellent filmmaker. Twisted dude. That film was amazing. That film... I have no more words. It was fucking... I'm definitely going to watch it again, but not anytime soon. Don't watch it. If you've listened to this podcast, you've probably already seen it. But if you've listened to this podcast and you haven't seen it, if you've got a weak stomach, you don't like horror, you don't like suspense, you don't like tension, this ain't the film for you. I love horror, suspense, tension. I'm pretty desensitized to a lot of violence, but that made me want to throw up. That was horrible. That was a rough film to watch. It's good. Good shit. Happy Halloween, everybody. Fuck me dead.